Okay. This is the official episode 1 of the Faith Unlimited podcast. I'm excited. We're just starting, right?
Yeah, episode 1, season 1.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty cool. I'm about to pull out my notes because I want to make sure we stay on track because I'm a rambler. What about you?
I like to stay on track.
Yeah. That's why you made these notes.
Exactly.
Oh, I forgot I got the iPad pen. Oh, that's fancy. All right, let's go. All right. But let's go. Here we go.
Ooh, episode 1.
Episode 1. So, what are we going to call this? What is episode 1?
Episode 1 is Faith Unlimited, how it all started. In the beginning, a little background.
Yes. I mean, we can't start without talking about Phoenix.
Yeah, I think that's when we started telling our story.
Yeah.
Is when we went to Phoenix. But I think there's more to our, there were steps before we got to Phoenix in 2015, right?
Yes. We can't start with Phoenix.
No.
I think both of our faith journeys started before Phoenix.
Right.
So I think we had to go to origin story, and I guess I could tell a little of mine where we started before we came together and started on the journey, right?
Yeah. I think we had our own individual steps that pretty much prepared us before we went to Phoenix. So there was faith before there were small faith steps before there were bigger faith steps.
Right. And I think mine started definitely when I moved to LA.
Yeah, now that was big.
Time.
That wasn't that small.
Yeah. I mean, mine pretty much 2011, long story short, 2010 I moved out of 2009, 2009. 2010 I moved out of my parents' house, got my own place, figured out I could do this. And then 2011 I took a trip to LA and to work in a studio to actually do a build out of a studio.
Now, was that your first time ever being in LA?
That was my first time, putting my feet in LA. I stopped there before, but I never been to LA.
Okay.
So that was my first time even visiting LA. It was November 2011.
Was that movie? Was that exciting? How did you feel saying, okay, I'm stepping out, I'm doing this?
So to start, I went out there to do that studio.
Okay.
And at the end, I had met a guy a couple months before. He was working in film. He asked me to come set up his studio in a movie studio in Atlanta. I did that. And so in November, he said, hey, could you do that to my studio in L.A.? I said, heck yeah. And so I was working for a music store at that time. And I told them to, allow me to go out there to do the install at his place. I went out, I sold him all the equipment, got a nice commission check. Actually forfeited a lot of commission to give him the best deal so that he can know that, hey, you can trust me, I can be the guy.
Wow.
I went out there, did the studio. And it was come to the last day of my trip, and he was like, hey, how much do I owe you? I said, nothing.
What?
I went on my own dime. I said, nothing.
What?
I just want to be a part of this, what you got going on. I love what you built out here. I just want to be a part.
Wow.
And so he was like, all I can tell you is if you lived in L.A., I would use you in my studio.
And then this light bulb went off
yep, I said,
that's cute.
I rode the Greyhound. Wow. I rode the Greyhound from Atlanta to L.A. to do that. I had a lot to think about.
How long is that ride?
It was 3 days.
Wow, you had a lot of time.
Yeah, a lot of time.
Pray,
so I was like, praying, thinking, God, I never lived out there. I never lived this far away from family, but I just got a feeling, Lord, and I'm just gonna have faith in you. So fast forward to I got back to Atlanta, and I told my parents I'm moving to LA. They was like, what? Did you get a job offer? I was like, kind of.
Because they're trying to figure out what happened between this time to you, what sparked that moment? Yeah, I would be shocked too if I was them.
Yeah, no, it was crazy. But I was like, I'm going, and my mom's like, you cool? You sure? It's like, yeah, that's it. The music store I worked for at the time, they could transfer me, but I'll also be doing other work. I don't know what it's gonna look like, but I'm gonna do it. And she was like, fine, do it while you're young. I said, cool. And so, I left and got to LA, and I had looked at all these places where I was going to rent. I was like, okay, this is my option A, option B, option C. Good, I got my options.
Did you have an idea? Like, had you been researching this before you went to LA? Like, where
Before the
should I
first time?
live? Yeah, before the first time.
So yes, so the store that I got sent to was a Northridge store. So I was in the Valley,
Okay.
and his studio was in Santa Clarita.
Okay.
And so I was like, that's not too far.
What's that like for people that are probably like?
So Northridge is in the Valley, but Santa Clarita is like north of the Valley.
Okay.
It's like maybe 30-minute drive.
Ooh, with LA traffic, y'all. LA has some bad traffic.
Traffic was bad. I tried to go on off hours so it wouldn't take that bad, but I got to LA. I had researched the area I wanted to live in, and worst case scenario, I was like, there's a school, CSUN, it's Cal State University, Northridge. I was like, they have some off-campus dorms that, if nothing else fails, I can get in there. Well, my option A, B, and C all fell through by the time I drove from Atlanta to California.
So, by the time you get to LA, every option you thought you had is done.
Gone. Out.
How do you feel in that moment?
I was not comfortable. I felt scared a little bit, but I had already told my parents that I'm going.
And you were like, I'm not turning.
And I'm not going back. I drove all the way over here. I'm not going back.
See, that is faith.
Yeah.
That is literally, because it's easy, it would have been easier for you to go back.
Yeah. Yeah. My mom came out with me for a couple of days and found out all my places fell through. And then my dad came out for a couple of days. And meanwhile, through all this, my great-grandmother passes away. And so it's just a lot of stress on the whole family.
Wow.
It's a whole lot. But actually, the first trip that I made in November, while I was doing the studio, I was like, hey, I got to leave one day. I'm on this side of the country. I got to go see my great-grandmother. And he was like, no, I understand. And I said, I'll come back afterwards and finish up. He's like, cool, no problem. I understand. I went up to go see my great-grandmother. I surprised her. She's like, what are you doing here? I said, just came to see you. I said, how you doing? She said, I'm tired. So I was like, oh, okay, that's crazy. I didn't like hearing that.
Right,
but,
right.
Fast forward 2 months later, she passed away. So I was glad that I made that trip to see her.
Wow. And so, okay, you're in LA.
Yep.
Your grandmother passed away.
Yep.
You're still trying to figure it out. Like,
Yep.
what kept you there? Like,
I had a feeling that God wanted me there, and I said, if I'm here, I think there's going to be options for me, and it's safe to go back to Atlanta.
Right, and you didn't want to do the same thing.
I was tired of just doing the safe thing.
See, I think that's where God wants us to be.
Yeah.
In the place of, I'm willing to let go of this safety. I don't know what it's going to look like on the other side, but I'm willing to be uncomfortable.
Yeah. Yeah, I was totally uncomfortable. I got there and ended up getting a place at the last minute, found a place, and it was a shared condo with a lady and a strange guy. I had no clue who they were. And it was crazy, but I was like, man, I'm supposed to be here. I just felt like I'm supposed to be here.
Man, and that was definitely God in the midst of that.
Yeah.
Just, I mean, for sure reminding, like, that keep going, that, because again, it would have been easy with all that was happening. Because I think too, sometimes when it gets hard, it's almost like, okay, that's my cue to give up. That's my cue to go back because I got all of this stuff going on, and it's like, is this even worth it?
Yeah, well, it gets better. So while I'm there, all that was promised to me in that position, I didn't get. But I'm doing I have a lot of studio sessions. I'm meeting people. I get to work with artists that I, dreamed about working with. I get to meet people that I dreamed about meeting, and it was super cool. It was just emotional roller coaster. I had a Dodge Charger I bought when I was 20 years old. Couldn't afford the payments. I had to give the car back.
Because LA ain't cheap.
LA ain't cheap.
Ain't cheap.
After I surrendered the car, like all these opportunities came. I surrendered the car, and my mom was like, "You need to get back. Just come back to Atlanta. It's too much. You just need to get back." I was like, "I can't. Something is for me."
Because it's almost like I just want to see. Like I got a feeling. I'm not 100% sure, but I just want to see if God gonna come through.
Yep.
Man, that's so cool.
Yeah, and so from the very first day after losing my car, I said, "God, thank you. I don't know what this season is going to be, but I just got a feeling that it's going to make me better." And I said, every day I'm walking, thank you. And at that time, I had moved to a city called Van Nuys, but I had a sweet situation. I was lived above the studio I worked out of. I had gotten a manager, and but I was riding the bus to work, to work and everywhere else. Or I didn't know Uber by then. Uber wasn't big in my book by then. So I rode the bus. I rode the cheap, but the 75-cent bus sometimes.
Ooh, my God.
When it was made for the
my God, I don't
people
know.
on Medicaid and all that kind of stuff. Ooh. But I was thanking God. I was chilling, and I was told that I lived in the hood. I was in Van Nuys, and everybody was like, "Man, you rode the bus in Van Nuys?" It's like, yeah, it wasn't bad for me. I think, God protected me. I never got approached by any kind of craziness. It was crazy. It was a hard time, but it was some of the best times that I had, and it definitely made me stronger, and it made me appreciate a lot more. And
I want to go back to something you just said several times. You said, "I'm going through all this. My car is gone, repoed. Grandmother passed. Trying to make it in this new place."
I'm gonna say I gave the car back because they had to meet me because I was hiding that car. I was hiding the car, and they they asked me. They didn't just catch me slipping one day.
You couldn't afford the car at this
I couldn't
moment,
afford the car.
right?
I had to give back.
Okay, whether they picked up, you got back. What you said was you thank God.
Yeah.
Like, how hard is that to thank God in the midst? We thank God when the blessings, like, and me and you have talked about this before. We thank God, and He's so good when the good stuff is happening. But when the bad stuff is happening, we forget that even though this is happening, He's still good.
Yeah, he was still good, and that was the thing. I had a place to live, and I was cool, and it really was a weight lifted off my shoulders because I just couldn't afford the car anymore, and I was trying to do things to keep up some kind of appearance and some kind of everything. I had subwoofers in the car. But I was doing things to keep up a certain lifestyle that I couldn't afford. And I think my goal of being in production and being in music was bigger than that car.
And God was teaching you something
God
in that
taught
moment.
me a lot. He taught me about my finances and how to be a better steward of that, and taught me what is important, and taught me that I hate car notes now. And there's a lot that he taught me in that.
Now, there's a lot of lessons in that, and just the fact of lesson of thanking God and knowing that He's good, even when things don't feel good.
Yeah.
Who's counted all joy?
Yeah. I mean, because He was faithful. He was faithful in that. I didn't change. I didn't starve.
Right.
I had a friend.
It could have been worse.
Yeah.
We always did know it could have been worse than what it was.
I had a friend I was working with he was living off of Santita's $1.29 chips, tortilla chips, and pretzels.
Wow.
And he couldn't afford to do things. And I was like, wow, I'm blessed. I'm still going out. I'm still going to the Bay Area to see family. I'm still God hooked me up with a good church family. They were just family away from family, and cool roommates and just good, crazy, good, cool opportunities that made me know that God is faithful through all of this.
He was working even in the midst.
Yeah.
You were able to find some things to be grateful for, almost, right?
Yep. And fast forward, you came. You came
Dun, 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 dun.
in the middle of all of that.
I did. That was my first major for me step of faith. You were in LA, I was in Atlanta. Now I'm born and raised in Atlanta. Your girl had never been on an airplane before. I hadn't really been nowhere, y'all. Just keeping it real. We were talking, and I'm coming to see you. I'm already speaking this, and I'm like, am I really going out there? I have never been on an airplane.
Yep.
I don't know what I'm doing, where I'm going. But now I said I'm coming to see you, so now I got to try to keep my word. So I take the first step, and I'm going to see him, but I'm scared. I'm nervous. Let me buy the plane ticket. If I buy the plane ticket, I know I got to go.
Yep.
I bought the plane ticket, sent you a copy of the plane ticket. The date finally gets here, and I am nervous because I'm like, first of all, I've never been this far away from home, and I've never been on an airplane before.
And that was crazy.
That was crazy.
Yeah.
And scary. And yeah, it was all the things. So I get on this airplane, and I'm watching movies, trying to keep my mind occupied. And I remember getting to LA. I made it through the plane ride, praying the whole way. I get to LA. I get off the airplane. And the first thing I do, I remember I look up, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I am in LA. I see palm trees, all the people. It felt different. It smelled different. Everything was just different. And I'm like, I can't believe I did this. This is crazy. But it felt good to take that trip and to accomplish that thing. While I was there, had a great time in LA. LA is a really cool place. If you've never been, go to LA. It's just different.
Yeah.
There's nothing like LA. Now, I always get it. Was it Santa Monica Beach, Venice Beach?
We went to Venice Beach.
Okay, so we're in LA sightseeing. We go to Venice Beach. Everybody's so cool. They're just kind, and it's like,
remember those people rode by the bike? We parked.
Yeah, and I thought they knew you or something, right? It was crazy because they were just everybody was so nice. And I remember we walk on the pier. I look over, and I see this big body of water, and I believe that in that moment, God changed my desire because I had accomplished this thing, and I'm looking around, and I'm like, I want this for my life. I want to travel. In that moment, it was and it's so interesting how before I didn't have a desire for that. I worked, hung out with my friends, hang out. That was that's all I wanted to do. I didn't have a desire to travel, but in that moment, as I was looking out into the water, God was changing my heart. And when I got back home to Atlanta, I'm like, I got to get back. I was ready to book another trip. I was ready to, because I just felt different. I'm like, I can't stay in this. This is the only place I've ever been, but there's so much more out there to see. And so in that moment, I'm like, yep, I want to travel. I don't want to stay the same. I want to do other things. But I didn't know that God was doing that to prepare us for the next years of our life of moving to these different places. He almost had to do that for me because he knew this is my daughter, and there's no way I'm going to tell her to leave, and she's never left before, and she's actually moving. No, I need to prepare her heart before then. And so I think those were our steps that we took before we even got to the major thing of actually moving to Atlanta, leaving Atlanta altogether.
Yeah, I think what was kind of crazy. So of course, fast forward, I leave LA, come back to Atlanta to get married. I just feel like, oh, this is the one.
Which was more faith.
It definitely took faith. I didn't know we were fresh again because we had talked earlier, but we started talking again, and then we started talking again in 2012, and then I was like, man, I don't know. I'm gonna take a risk, and I'm gonna leave LA, leave all this good stuff, and I'm gonna go back to Atlanta. I remember because I asked you a question. I said, "Would you ever move to LA?" Because I didn't think about moving back to Atlanta at that point.
And I said, "Not as your girlfriend."
Right. So
period.
I was like, "Okay, I got to move. I don't think I can do this long distance thing for a long time." So I remember moving back to Atlanta and going through all that process, and then 7 months later we get married, and then we start our faith journey. More. Well, I feel like God gave us time to get acquainted, to get things situated.
Yeah, we did.
Get the, I guess, would you call it? Get our family stable, and get a routine and get trusting
each other,
because
it took. Now that you just say that, it took trust to even trust each other with these moves, like. Okay, I need to trust my husband. I need to trust that he's leading us, and you got to trust. Like, it just took. So we needed that time before God kind of launched us out to do it. But he was preparing our hearts like the whole time. I just think that's so cool that he did that for us.
He loves us so much that he does that kind of thing.
And he knows us so well that he knows us better than we do. He knew I need to do this before this, because I know my kids won't do this without this first. So that's cool.
So we're married, and then we live in Atlanta for about 3 years. And in 2015, I kind of felt the same thing before I moved to LA, and I was like, I had been working at the church I grew up in, and I just like, this feels safe again. But I felt like I had to experience God's faithfulness again.
Yep.
It's like I gotta feel his faithfulness and see him work again. And I feel like he has more for us. And I don't want to be stuck in just this world that I grew up in this safe environment. And I want to do more. I want to experience more.
Right.
I want to do more. And I think that even if I had to ever come at that point, I was thinking, even if I had to ever come back, I still need those times out.
Away,
letting my faith grow.
And we're going to talk about that too at some point. Yeah.
Getting more experiences. So, that's when I, went on that site and looking for unchurched cities.
Yeah.
And one that popped up that caught my eye was Phoenix, Arizona. And I was like,
that's it.
I don't know. I don't know anything about Phoenix, but let me look into it.
Yeah.
I watched a video about, how many people are unchurched in Phoenix and how it's heavy Catholic and Mormon and all these different things. And the thing that caught my eye was one of my friends was going through a certain thing and on Facebook, and I encouraged him. And then another guy came behind me, liked my status, and dittoed what I said. And I was like, who is this guy?
Right. And you started research, who is this? Let me see who this person is.
I saw it was another young couple from Atlanta that had just moved to Phoenix. I was like, what are the odds? What are the odds? That was like July of 2015.
Man, you
and I was
good
like,
with
what
dates.
I remember. It's like, what are the odds? And so I talked to him. I sent him a message like, hey, man, I know this is crazy. I random. I see you're friends with this person. That's a homeboy, an ex-coworker of mine. And he's like, actually, that's my old roommate. When I lived in Atlanta, that was my roommate. And then me and my wife moved to Phoenix. I was like, speaking of Phoenix, that's so crazy. We're thinking about moving there. He's like, oh, man, I'm a musician I'm a musician at a church, and but we also work and do other things. I was like, what?
It was all just literally lining
Yeah.
up. This random person that you didn't know.
Yeah. And so, long story, he said he was gonna he'll look out for other jobs and he'll show us around. And then I end up getting a job, and then we got down to the wire. We were like, I don't know, what are we gonna do?
Live.
Like, we gotta go though. We know we're supposed to go. And then I told my church where I was working in October, like, hey, we're moving to Phoenix. And he's like, tell me about that. What is that? What is that all about? And I said, I don't know.
We weren't sure.
I
was at my job and you're way better. So one thing you'll know on the podcast, I am not good with dates. Darnell's good with dates.
Yes.
All I know is I told my job, I was on my job in Atlanta for 5 years. And we made this decision, like, we're leaving. And we never knew anything 100%. We literally were taking one step at a time. I think that's the biggest thing that we learned and that we'll share more of, but you never know 100%. That's why it's faith. You got to take the first step. We took the first step, and then God just started lining everything else up.
And it was, the pastor says, it's 51%.
51%, yep.
I had 51% that we'll be okay.
Yeah.
And one thing I was like, man, Atlanta's going to be there. Mm-hmm. My home church is going to be there.
Yep.
And if ever it came to it, I can go somewhere.
Yeah.
Come back to something. But I said,
gotta do it. Gotta try.
I feel like this is it, and I'll never forget. And we'll have to do it. We're gonna do a podcast with that family too.
Yeah, but that would be cool to have them on.
We're trying to figure out. We didn't have a place to live. We didn't have everything planned, and people that we had never met before.
Crazy.
We never met them in person. Never seen them in person. We saw their Facebook.
That was
stuff.
it.
And I talked to him on the phone. I was talking to him on the phone. So from July to August until we got there, I had been talking to him on the phone, and he'd been praying for us and encouraging us, and we've been praying to God and trying to make money. I remember I got an extra job working at Kroger because I was like, man, I need some extra money, and working at the church too, and all the money that I made at Kroger went to fixing the car that we had, and it was like, oh my gosh, it was just crazy. And I just remember getting in that car. And we loaded up. We got a picture. We're going to put on the video.
Yeah, I got a couple of pictures.
We loaded up. What was it? Chevy Impala.
Was it 2008?
2000. Yeah, it was like a 2008
Black
Chevy Impala. That was yours. But we loaded up the Impala. And I put a hitch on the back of there to carry our stuff.
We sold most of the stuff we had.
Yeah, all
packed
the furniture.
what we could.
Yeah.
Man, it was crazy.
Drove across the country.
Sight unseen. Don't forget that.
We never visited.
So we're going to stay with people that we've never met before. We're going to a place we've never seen.
Yeah.
This is crazy. Like this is real. Yeah. And just trusting that God but he was orchestrating each step though.
Yeah.
We had to take one step first, but he was orchestrating each step along the way. So
the drive was just crazy.
Yeah.
The drive was crazy. And I remember finally pulling into the outskirts of Phoenix. And I just remember your face.
Yeah, I was like, my face said it because I didn't say it out loud. But in my mind, I'm like, what have I done? Yeah. I have never I've never moved. Like I have left everything that I know, my family, my job, friends, everything that I knew to come to a place, and I pull up and all I see, okay, if you know anything about Phoenix, is desert, right? All I saw, cactus and whatever else. I didn't see any houses. And I'm like, what am I doing? What have I done? God help me, please.
So we definitely were on the far outskirts. If you know anything about Phoenix, it had to be like the Casa Grande or like it's somewhere like that was way far east.
It was bad for me.
Bad.
I can't lie. It was bad.
It was like East Mesa. It was bad. But then we started coming in, and I was like, one thing I did do, we did not visit there, but one thing I did do is I Google mapped the whole Google Earth. I knew the streets.
You did a lot of research.
I did a whole lot of research.
A lot of research.
A lot of research, and I was like, this don't look like Google Earth. Why is this like
what
it
is
is
happening? Yeah, you did a lot of research though, which was good.
Yeah, we finally got past the mountain that was covering up all the houses and everything. We're like, oh man, okay, yeah, this looks good. And I remember showing up to our friend's house and meeting them for the first time. It was like, what's up? Like,
it was
nice
so.
to meet you.
It felt like. It didn't feel awkward though.
No, it didn't feel awkward.
It felt like we knew them.
Yeah, it did.
And that was God too. They were very kind. They were expecting a baby at that time.
Yes, pregnant.
I think the beautiful thing that about them, I just don't know if like that. It had to be God. They were literally led by God because to let us, we are worried about. We going to live with strangers, but I mean, they could have been worried about the same thing, and for them to be expecting, and they give up their room for us.
Yeah, that was crazy too. They had a one bedroom apartment. We all moved in to their one. We moved to their 1 bedroom apartment, and they was like, "Hey, y'all stay in the bedroom, and we'll stay on the couch in the living room."
And do you remember we walked in the bedroom? There was a board. Had our names. They had been praying for us.
Yeah, their prayer list was on there.
God.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Like that was God. They will always have a special place.
Yeah.
In our hearts.
Shout out to Clarence and Camicia.
Yeah, they are. They the real ones for real.
They are.
They will always be a part of our faith journey, for sure.
Yeah.
But that was an interesting season.
It was, and I think that season grew our faith.
My faith wouldn't have grown like that any other way.
Yeah, even to get in our first apartment to where it was like, we didn't make enough on paper. We were like, we were too short. I mean, and we left. Right, we left, and you didn't have a job. But in the car, in the drive,
on the way,
by the time we get to like Texas or something. You had put your resume on Indeed.
Got a call from
you
a
start
temp
getting
agency.
calls from temp. And say, hey, when y'all get here, can we schedule an appointment? Can we schedule? And we were like, okay. We didn't know what school we were going to put Paris
in.
We didn't know that. We knew that we were going to live with them forever.
Right.
And so we were like, where we're going to put Paris? What school are we going to put Paris in? We don't know. And so we were like, well, we need to hurry up and find a place.
Yeah.
And so I remember we got approved. We ended up finding a place. We got approved within like 5 days.
It wasn't ready yet.
But they said it wouldn't be ready till like the 16th of January. I remember the date.
Yeah.
And we used to
drive around.
We got that on faith. We got that place on faith because the money didn't add up. I was working a job to where I got paid mostly in commission.
Yeah. You know what though? With everything that we've done, nothing adds up. and I am nothing will ever, I don't think nothing will ever make sense or add up when you take steps of faith because God is trying to show you. He doesn't want anybody else to get the glory for what he's trying to do in our lives.
Yeah.
And I think that's every time it's almost like we didn't qualify for something, but he made it happen, and so he gets the glory for it. I've seen God move in that a lot.
Yeah, and I think in that season, while God kept showing us that He was so faithful, from the apartments to the people giving us cars to the people giving us 4 sets of brand new tires, to stores, going into the store to buy a tire.
And they
say, hey, well, you need 4 tires, and we're going to put it on your car. Like, what in the world? But we got the chance to see how faithful God was, and I just remember I used to wear this clothing line. They made a lot of clothing big and tall, so I used to buy it.
Dream Big
a lot of the shirts said "Dream Big."
Yep.
And I would be walking into the store, people were like, "I love that shirt, Dream big. I love that shirt. I love that. I love
Every
that.
time you wore that shirt,
Every time I
somebody
wore
would
it.
say something about it.
And I was like, man, we need to share our faith story at some point. And then I was like, it feels like I'm like a walking billboard because every time I wear this shirt, somebody says what my shirt says.
Yep.
And so we need to figure out what kind of message we can put on a shirt that can encourage somebody else.
Yep.
I started saying like, man, if everybody's gonna always look at my shirt, well, I need to be like, I wonder how we can.
How you can put in some type of message.
Right.
That can just encourage somebody, as even if you don't have a conversation, as I'm walking by.
Right.
Because that happened a lot too. It was like, thank you for this.
Right. Exactly. So I was like, man, we need a press. We need to get a t-shirt. I started doing some research.
More research.
It took me months to buy a t-shirt press because I was trying to find, okay, what's the best press? What's going to make the most sense? Is it impossible to do from the house? I didn't know anything about it. And so I asked some qualifying questions. I got a friend, shout out to Crystal.
Crystal.
Who she was telling me, it's not that hard. And I didn't even know that. I don't know if I knew that she did shirts. Oh, I think I did know that she did shirts. She did everything at the time. But I was like, "Is it hard?" She's like, "No, it's not that hard." I said,
"Yep."
Well, I'm gonna try to do it. She's like, "There's videos all on YouTube," and I was
start watching
videos. And then it just came time. Like, you know what? I think it's time. And so we bought the first press, and it was trash. But I got the 30-day guarantee, so I sent it back, and then I got the press that we have to this day.
Till to this day. Wow, this is the same. It's been the same one
to this day. Yeah.
And our
and we about to add to it.
Our shirt was God is faithful.
Yep.
And it was because of all that we had seen, everything that we'd seen. We saw God moving, and we started making those shirts, wearing those shirts. And I just remember being in restaurants and being in places and people saying, I needed to see that.
Right.
People asking for prayer, people telling us their stories.
Right.
And so that shirt was what we call our faith flag.
Right.
Right. So people know they believe in God. And it was their opportunity to start a conversation with us.
Right.
So we had so many people just talking to us, interacting with us when we made that shirt.
Yeah, and I loved the shirt. As we talked about it more and more, I started to say, I don't know if you remember, I was like, you know what, it's more than a shirt.
Yeah, you did. You said that a lot. When all I thought at one point was shirt.
It's a shirt company. That's when there was a big shirt company it came out, and everybody was rocking that man's shirt. He was selling shirts for $8, and we were like, oh, we got to compete with that. Then I was like, you know what? It's not the shirt that is the sale. I think it's the whole ministry,
the movement
of how God is faithful and sharing the stories of everyday people, how God has been faithful, and how He was faithful to us, and how we've been able to we were able to tell people how God was faithful into our life. And I think that was super cool.
Yeah, and Faith Unlimited, like, I know for sure it is a God thing, even to this moment of this podcast, because this thing has been with us for a long time.
Yeah.
And God has used it, and it's still even giving us more and more stories of our own to share.
Yeah.
So that is just like how it all started. But I feel like this is the beginning of some great things that God is going to do with the ministry and the people that are connected to the ministry.
Right. And it's not like it's a just saying this for the record, it's not like it's a church. What is Faith Unlimited?
For me, Faith Unlimited is a movement.
Yeah.
Coming from, like I said in the beginning, my background and never have gone anywhere, never had the dreams and aspirations, and now how God has changed my heart. I think there are a lot of people, a lot of followers of Christ that have a desire to do more or know that God is calling them for more.
Yeah.
But there's fear. There is something keeping them from doing and being all that God has called them to do and be. And so I think for me, I want to be a part of encouraging them. Because sometimes if you hear somebody else's story, it's like, oh man, if God did it for them, he can do it for me.
Right.
God has been calling me in my heart to do this thing, and I've been scared to do it. But now that I hear these stories, it gives me that confidence to say, God is with me too. And so I think I just want to see people. I hate fear.
Yeah.
It has stopped us from doing a lot of things. It's not something like we still struggle to this day.
Yeah.
And so I hate what fear does to people and what fear keeps people from doing. Because I think we all have so much that we can offer and impact the world around us. But fear keeps us from doing it. So I want to be able to encourage people. You don't have to be afraid. Like, God is with you.
Yeah.
And you can do whatever he's called you to do. And Faith Unlimited is going to be like a movement of people just doing what God's called them to do.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I think it's ministry, it's network, it's movement, it's
family, community.
Yeah, it's and then television. I want it to be everywhere because man, the enemy is everywhere.
Yeah, so we need to show up just as many places as he's showing up.
Yeah.
with the gift and the voice that God has given us, I believe.
Yeah.
So yeah, we need to be everywhere. This is just the beginning.
Just the beginning for sure. Just the beginning. But yeah, man, I love that we were able to tell this origin story.
Yeah,
and
it's exciting.
I'm excited to dig into more. We passed so many things, just on how we had faith in God and how we were able to celebrate with people and how God, blessed us in so many ways.
It's amazing.
Just for obedience or just having faith. And I can't wait to share just all the different parts. But, even what we've learned and the things that we've learned in leaving our hometown.
That's going to be fun.
Yeah, that's definitely, I can't wait to share that.
What would you say to somebody that might be listening right now and they're like, man, I want to do this thing. I've been feeling like God's called me to do this thing, but I'm scared.
Yeah. I think the scripture that we have held on to, one of them, and me as well, as for God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and love, and how we read it in the church I grew up in is, and a sound mind.
Yep.
And then in another version I've been reading, it says power and love and self-discipline. I would say to not be scared of it.
Yeah.
And it's okay to study it.
Yeah.
And it's okay to do your due diligence.
Right. Research or whatever you got to do.
But make sure you do it and you start. And you start somewhere and you start with what you have.
Yep.
That's this podcast. I mean,
that's what it is.
This is actually scary.
Very.
To me, it's to come in a market that I feel like is flooded. And there's a lot of noise in the market. And there's a lot of people saying the exact same thing.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people listening to other people's podcasts.
Right.
And just repeating it in their own vernacular. And I'm not saying that it's a bad thing. I'm just saying, I didn't want to just be more noise added to the market.
Yeah.
It was scary, but I said, you know what? I also told God that I was going to share it. I was going to share what he's done.
Yeah.
And that I was going to, that he can trust us.
Yes.
With what he gives us. He can trust us, with all that he gives us.
Yep.
And that we will always give him all the glory and all the honor
every time.
And all the praise every time, and not take his credit.
Right.
And so I feel like we definitely share, but I feel like this is a way to share with more people, whoever
More
will listen.
people
And
together.
maybe it's a whole nother audience, and we can do it together.
Yeah.
So that, nothing's lost in translation.
Right.
And nothing's embellished. You can you correct me like, no, I don't remember that part. Now you
Because
add
I
something.
will.
Yeah, you will.
Because I will.
So, I'm excited. I'm excited about this podcast. I'm excited this is the first episode. I don't know if one person's going to listen to it or a million people are going to listen to it, but I'm excited to just be obedient.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. As long as we're obedient.
Yeah, this could be for us. It could just be memoirs for us to go back and whatever. But I'm
God
excited
is pleased, then we're good. But if you are the one person that's listening, make sure you rate the podcast so that we can get out for more people to hear it. We'll also add our newsletter. We'll send weekly encouragement. You'll get updates on podcasts. We are going back to the merch.
Yes.
Because that's where it all started. And so
and that actually funds this podcast.
Yeah.
This stuff ain't free.
It ain't
free to post it up. It ain't free. So it's that helps spread the word. That also helps you with your faith flag. And somebody see you say God is faithful on your shirt or Faith Unlimited on your shirt.
Start a conversation, invite somebody to church, whatever.
Yeah, I play pickleball now.
Oh yeah, let's talk about that real
quick. I play pickleball, and I have a first generation Faith Unlimited shirt, a hoodie that I wear, and I've worn it there maybe once or twice, and a lady stopped me the other day, said, "Hey, good to see you. I love the sweatshirt that you wear sometimes." I was like, oh man, it's faded and everything.
The message. It
Yeah.
is the message.
Yeah.
That still is louder than anything.
Yeah. I went to the Publix the other day, and another lady, I had on my black one, which is now gray. I had on, and she was like, I love that shirt.
One, y'all.
I was like, you love this shirt? I thought you were trying to be funny at first.
But you just never we were at Universal. And there was a mom, a daughter, and I think it was 3 of them. And they walked up to her. She had tears in her eyes. She's like, we're going through some stuff and we needed that message.
Yeah.
So it's like, we can't take it lightly. We're wearing it as a t-shirt.
Yeah.
But God is so big and does so many amazing things. He will orchestrate a person that might need to see that message to be in that place or at pickleball or wherever.
Yeah.
So definitely we're going to get that back out. Make sure you're on the email list. We are building the faith family, the community.
Yes.
Because we got to get into that later, the importance of community, I think.
That's good. That's going to be a good episode.
Yeah, that's going to be good. And so we're building that community because it's going to take community for us to do all that we're supposed to do. That God's calling us to do. But
so you can catch us on social at Faith Unlimited. It's FAITH. That's Faith UNLMTD. And that's everywhere on Instagram, on Facebook,
TikTok, everywhere.
We have TikTok?
Kinda.
Okay, all right. I ain't seen
YouTube, everything.
All right. And then also FaithUnlimited.com. It's FaithUnlmtd.com.
Man, I love episode 1.
Episode 1.
Season 1, episode 1.
That's what I put on here. It says season 1, episode 1.
Man, thank y'all for listening.
Yes. For 17,000 seasons to come.
Yeah. For real.
It's going to be plenty of seasons to come. Man, unlimited. There we go. We're not going to cap it. We're going to keep it going unlimited. So, yeah, thank y'all for tuning in to this first episode. We will check you all on the next one. We love y'all.
Praying for y'all.
Yes. Send us your prayer requests.
Yeah.
You got to get in the newsletter. You got to get on the newsletter.
That's where all the good stuff.
Yes, on the newsletter. Whenever you're listening to this, you got to get on the newsletter. It's not too late. And we will be praying for y'all. We love y'all. And peace.
We out.
Peace.